Oh, can you hear me now? Just let me know if the audio's coming through. Can you hear me all right? Yep, okay. So I'm assuming that because I'm an idiot and I forgot to actually unmute myself, you didn't hear anything that I just said, so I'll just repeat it. Welcome, new faces, and welcome back to the old faces. Um, Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. Nice to see you all here. When is the Yuka hate video? It's in the pipeline. There's a few things that I want to do for it because I know that no matter what, I'm going to get a certain amount of backlash. So I want to do a good job on actually expressing my criticisms. Um, oh, hey, Tazo. Um, I think if I can get my Dark Souls video, I guess my plan is I've got one Elden Ring video in the works that I'm writing the script to right now about identity. Um, and then once that's out, then I'll get back to my Dark Souls music video, try to get that out, and then maybe Yuka hate video after that. By the way, I don't think I said I was going to mention it in the stream when we were watching the trailer um, about the music. It sounded to me like it was Tai Tomisawa who did some of the tracks in Elden Ring. Um, didn't sound like Kitamura to me. I don't know if she wrote anything for the DLC, but anyway, I would expect sort of similar music to what we got in the base game. Just reading some comments. Okay. Danger Man says, one thing to ponder about is something tweeted by Easer Aesthetics that Marika was impaled by Mesmer because she has an unborn child. Seems too damn interesting to ignore that possibility. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, his name is Mesmer the Impaler, so... Well, we'll probably get back to that. So there's a few things that I wanted to do. So because we went through the trailer and then I was just so tired and like my mind was not there, so I didn't really get in depth on what we got as much as I wanted to. So this stream is going to go full autism. We're going into details. I took a bunch of screen caps of the trailer, and we also, in addition to the trailer, we also got 3 interviews by Miyazaki, one for the American crowd, one for the European crowd, and one for the Japanese crowd, as well as some promotional images which were on the Elden Ring website. So I have those all together. We're going to look at all those and we're going to get into depth. So anyone who doesn't want, spoilers, now is the time to leave, probably. My feeling is, this is the stuff they felt comfortable releasing, and so I'm going to look into it in as much depth as possible. I was thinking about it, and, it is, I know some people want to avoid spoilers at this point. I've talked to several people, and I got to catch myself from fanboying out about the new stuff. Um, but yeah, my feeling is, they felt comfortable releasing this stuff, and I think there will be plenty of content that will be revealed that we have no idea about, and a lot of the stuff that they've revealed we don't have any context for. So, but I will say, if there's any kind of leaks, I'm not going to cover that, and I'm going to try and avoid it. Um, I do feel like, I want to respect what they want to share and what they don't want to share, and there is something to preserve about that first time experience. So, ba, 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 ba. Unrelated, but what do you think of Mesmer's design? I think he looks cool as hell. So, Sky Hornet asked, what do you think of the music in the trailer? I found it a bit generic, to be honest. Yeah, to me it sounds like more Tomisawa, kind of as bland and sort of action music generic-y as a lot of the Souls, a lot of the Elden Ring soundtrack. So, yeah. Oh, welcome, Cosmos. Yeah, screen craps, exactly. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at the interviews. I'm not going to read through them, but I'm just going to point out a few things, partly because, you know, all the speculation is running wild. People are going crazy and saying all sorts of things. And everybody's, you know, all the content creators are rushing out to make videos about it. And I see certain things that are highly speculative or just plain wrong, that I think the interviews give some context for. Miyazaki is actually surprisingly forthcoming about certain things, and so we'll just point out some things here. So, oh, this is the Eurogamer one. Let's start with the IGN. Oh, first of all, I noticed that this picture, it's got this weird thing here. I think this is a completely made-up image. So, and the reason for that is, oh god, I've got so much stuff here. I gotta find it. But where was it? Let me go to it. There's one picture where you can see the bottom of the trees. Wait, there's more than that? What the heck? I gotta fix something here. Add directory. Okay. So there's one picture where you can see the bottom of the trees and you can see a space between them, and it does not. Why is this not showing me all the pictures that I took? All right, I'll have to figure that out in a moment. Maybe I can just look for it this way. This will just take a moment, but I think it's worthwhile to point out. So, where is that? It was this guy, I think. Yeah, so there you can see this is near to the base of the shadow tree. And you can see a space there where the two trunks are intertwining. And so this image, I think that they just made this up. And you can even tell it's like they took the initial release image, because this is the concept image that was released a year ago. And they sort of moved the tree closer, and I think they just made up that bottom. So I don't think there's any lore relevance to this this weird thing there. Although it looks kind of cool, but I don't think that's real. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. So he points out a few things. It's an entirely separate map. We're going to warp there. He says it occupies the same universe as the Lands Between, but it's become physically disconnected. So that's kind of interesting because it means that they were connected at one point. Mikola is a key part of the story. The DLC promo image is in fact Mikola, and he traveled to the Land of Shadow, and it's the players who will be tracing his path and following his footsteps. And then we're also going to get some backstory about Marika and what she did in the Land of Shadow, what led Mikola to follow her there. So that's kind of interesting. That whatever Mikola's goal is, we'll get into that a bit, but Mikola wanted to create the Erdtree and solve his sister's problem, um, and potentially something to do with Godwin, potentially something to do with the eclipse. So, what could correspond to something that Marika did? So that's an interesting little tidbit there. Similar experience to what we had with the base game. Open field maps, large-scale legacy dungeons, and small to medium-scale legacies as well. So multiple open field maps, multiple legacy dungeons of various sizes. Now he says, in terms of scale or size, it's probably comparable, if not larger, than the area of Limgrave from the base game. My sense is, and I don't want to get my hopes up too much, before Elden Ring released, the one of the devs, I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was Miyazaki, but something came out that said, "Oh, it's about 30 hours, right?" It's like, okay, it releases, it takes like 150 hours to get through it. It's ridiculous, right? So, and what they did with the map, how it starts zoomed in, and you sort of think, oh yeah, okay, it's about that size, and then as you explore, it's like, oh wait, it's way bigger. Oh wait, it's way bigger. Oh wait, there's an underground, right? So part of the experience of Elden Ring is this sense of grand scale, where it's trying to impress you with the scale. I would guess that if I were Miyazaki and I wanted to impress players, I would downplay the size of this. So, maybe it's not much bigger than Limgrave, but could be pretty big. Could be pretty big. I would guess that he's deliberately trying to downplay it. He doesn't want to say that it's bigger than it is. So we enter via the Mikola Cocoon in Mogwin Palace. We follow in Mikola's footsteps. Oh, so now the interviewer asks about this giant basket of flaming kindling. I'm gonna need to fix my. I'm gonna need to fix this quick. So give me 1 second here as I create a folder and just stick all of this in there, and hopefully this works. So trailer screen caps, add directory. Let's see if that works. So if I go through it, is this actually all of them now? No, why is it not getting them all? What the heck? This is wild. Oh, I should have checked this beforehand. Sorry, guys. I'll just have to do it manually. Okay, that's all of them, so... What the heck? I see all of them here. Why is this so hard to get? What am I doing wrong here? Okay, let me just do it a different way then, even though this is going to be more time consuming. So let's go back to this. Browse. Okay. So he asks, the interviewer asks about this, yeah, maybe I'll just create a new one. Let me see if, okay, I'm going to try one more thing. Sorry, technical difficulties. I'm still trying to figure this stuff out here. Okay, I am going to try and get this right. screen caps. Okay, we're going to do 2,200 and add in a directory. Hopefully this works. Fingers crossed. Gonna get rid of this. Oh, okay. And we want to go manual. Ah, this is annoying as hell. Okay, let's see if this works. What the hell? Why are you only giving me like 20 images? Alright. Alright. I'll just do it the slow, reliable way. Okay, anyway, so the interviewer is asking about this guy in the trailer. And I've seen people saying that so the interviewer says, you know, okay, this giant basket of flame. Miyazaki says, oh, this giant basket of flame, as you so eloquently put it, Mitchell. I've seen some people say that, oh, the basket of flame is called Mitchell. Mitchell is the name of the interviewer. Okay, the basket of flame is not called Mitchell. Okay, and in fact, Miyazaki says, where was it? We can't give away the name just yet officially. So we really don't know what that is called. Anyway, so that's just one thing to correct. And then there's an absolutely terrifying worm. Yeah, okay, he doesn't want to talk about the enemies, except for Mesmer. So he does say, okay, his name is Mesmer. And Mesmer is sitting on this throne. People who've played the game may recognize this throne to be one of those from the boss room where you battle Morgoth. So it's one of the thrones at the base of the Erdtree. And you will learn in the DLC why he wasn't featured in the Legends of the Erdtree and why he exists in this Land of Shadow. Now, what else does he say? He says George R.R. Martin's story, the mythos that he wrote, this is still, he wrote one mythos. He didn't write anything new for the DLC. We took from part of that mythos to build the base game, and then, you know, used more of it to build this Shadow of the Erdtree expansion. We still want to make it difficult and have optional bosses and stuff. And then he says, you know, basically in a sort of euphemistic way that, yeah, we are not planning on building any more Elden Ring content after this. But maybe, but in Miyazaki speak, that means probably not. So that's the IGN interview. Now there's the Famitsu interview, which is in Japanese. I found a translation on Reddit. I have no idea whether this is reliable or not. It seems to be better than just using Google Translate on the page. But I haven't, you know, I'm sure people will go through this in detail and translate it more accurately. But in this one, he's talking about, you know, how pleased he is that Elden Ring is so successful. Talks about fragmented storytelling. Not a lot of new stuff here. He says that DLC development, we started to imagine what it would look like around the end of development of the main title, which lines up with what seemed to be the case. So he says that the meaning of the title, the DLC title means the shadow of this golden tree, the shadow of the Erdtree. He also says, so he says that the DLC takes place not in the lands between, but the Shadowlands, of which the Shadow Tree is a symbol. He also says there's a small hidden meaning in the title, which we hope you will figure out when playing the game. That's kind of an interesting thing. I'm not really sure what hidden meaning there could be in the title, except that, you know, to have something be in the shadow of something else, like the shadow of a tree, it sort of means that it's obscured from vision, that the existence of the tree obscures something else. So I don't really know what that is. The Jungian, Aesroy says the Jungian shadow of the tree. Yeah, I think there's probably going to be some Jung influence. A lot of other stuff that he's already said. This is important. So the interviewer asks, as you know, we're gonna get some story about America. We're gonna get some backstory about America. Does this mean the DLC takes place in the past? And Miyazaki says, no, it takes place in the same time as the main title. It is not in the distant past or future. So people have been speculating about that, and we know that it is concurrent. Now, if we have a place that's like removed from the lands between in some, you know, metaphysical way, I don't know, you could have some time shenanigans going on there, but at least it's not clearly like, oh, we're going to the past. It's not just pure time travel. So there might be some weird things, and you know, it's Miyazaki. There might be some weird time shenanigans, but it is, according to Miyazaki, in the same time as the main title. He doesn't want to talk about the themes. He says it's clearly larger. It's the biggest DLC ever. Interestingly, he says, in order to access this DLC, you will need to have defeated Moog and Radahn. Now, Moog makes sense if we access the DLC through Miquella's egg. Radahn is an interesting one. And the only thing that really makes sense to me is if, essentially, Radahn... beating Radahn... So, in the base game, beating Radahn sends this this star that bites the earth in Limgrave, which allows you to access Nokron. Now, potentially that could also trigger something else. Like if you have the DLC installed, that it will not only trigger that star, but maybe another star, another crash. I know Sekiro Doobie covered some cut content which involved other sort of similar events to the star crashing in Limgrave that were removed, that had to do with the Divine Towers. So it could be as simple as, well, okay, yeah, you need to unseal the fate of the stars, and so just for lore reasons you need to beat Radahn. But I feel like it would make sense to have some grand event. So anyway, that's kind of an interesting one. He says that the difficulty follows that of the latter half of the main game. So, and that makes sense if you have to beat Moog. You can go back and forth between the main story and the DLC. You can fast travel around. The events of the main story will not affect the DLC. The story of the DLC will be contained entirely within the DLC. So that's also kind of interesting. He says this thing about there is an element of leveling unique to the DLC. Separate from the original level system, there is an attack power that is only enabled in the DLC areas. And the idea is that you can keep your attack power low, which seems like basically you have some optionality to scale the DLC at different levels of difficulty. I'm not really sure how that will work. He compares it to the attack power system in Sekiro, but from what I remember in Sekiro, it's not particularly complicated. It's pretty linear. It's just like, okay, you upgrade your attack power and you do more damage. I don't remember if there's some complicated thing. I know Ratatosker did a video on that, so I haven't watched that yet. I'll be interested to see what he has to say about it. So probably, um, probably, they're thinking, well, look, the base game is so big, that it takes you so long to get through various points and to level up. I mean, by the end of the game, you might be level 120 or something like this. For players who maybe haven't played the base game yet and want to, play the whole thing with the DLC, or for players um, who they want to make it fit for every kind of play style, I would say, to anyone who's at any point in the game. And so there's some element of sort of dynamic scaling. That's what it seems like. Generally speaking, I'm suspicious of dynamic scaling, but the way he describes it, it's kind of hard to make sense of what exactly it is. So, now he says that there are 8 new weapon types. So weapon types, meaning things like, straight swords, curved swords, great swords, etc., whips. He mentions a couple of them. These large katanas, odachi, or possibly tachi, daito. Reverse hand swords, which there is a shot of that in the trailer. And also dueling shields or throwing daggers. So, variety of new weapon types, which probably means a fairly hefty amount of new weapons in general. The interesting stuff here is he says, the Shadowlands are where America became a god and where the Erdtree was born. So that's kind of major lore dump there. We'll come back to that. There's no separate ending. Nothing like where the credits would roll. And I think that was it for this one. And then the last one is the Eurogamer interview. There isn't much here, but one thing that he says is, we wanted to go more in depth and bring a denser and richer level design, which brings these types of layout together a little more seamlessly, referring to, the field and dungeon areas. So there will be large open areas, and there will be legacy dungeons, but we've also experimented with something a little more in between these as well, which is music to my ears. I love that idea. Hopefully there's nothing like the Liurnian Swamp or Mountaintops of the Giants, a little bit denser, so that's going to be interesting. Over 10 new boss fights, which honestly seems on the low side. I would guess that actually means like major boss fights. I guess it depends on what this new type of level design really means. If there's the equivalent of catacombs and things like that, would those all have bosses? If we think of Limgrave alone, there's probably, I don't know, 40 bosses in there, something like that. So 10 new boss fights feels on the low side. I would assume he's talking about the sort of major story bosses. There's probably minor bosses as well. And of course, it will include a poison swamp. I realized I really like to create poison swamps. Yeah, you only realize this now, Miyazaki? Come on. Come on. Okay, so that's the interviews. There's a few interesting things there, a few little lore things that are worth talking about. I just also wanted to point out some things that people were theorizing about. I watched a little bit of, not to call him out, but Tarnished Archaeologist video, where he immediately assumes that we're going to the past, and like Miyazaki just explicitly says we're not. And other people have been speculating things like this. And so just, Miyazaki's words, I assume, are as canonical as anything can be. So that's where we're at. We also have this, which we did read on stream, but again, fairly forthcoming with the lore dumps here. The Land of Shadow is a place obscured by the Erdtree where the goddess Marika first set foot. And the interesting thing about that is, the Newmen are described as coming from another world. And if the Land of Shadow is something that was disconnected from the Lands Between, then that means it was connected at one point, which means that Marika arrived in the Lands Between in what is now the Land of Shadow. If that makes sense. So that's kind of interesting. So she came from somewhere else beyond either the Land of Shadow or the Lands Between. A land purged in an unsung battle, set ablaze by Mesmer's flame. It was to this land that Miquella departed, divesting himself of his flesh, his strength, his lineage, of all things golden. And now Miquella awaits the return of his promised lord. So Miquella, his spirit, or whatever, his soul, traveled to the Land of Shadow somehow. Excuse me. Yeah, okay, so I think let's now take a look at... Damn, I really wish this slideshow thing would work, because I wanted to just go through them. Why is it not working like the others? Image slideshow. I'm going to try one more time to get this to work. Okay. So I took all these screen caps very deliberately, and it's not giving me all of them. Okay, that's all of them there. Image files. It should theoretically be able to show all of them, right? Theoretically. So, no! What is your problem? God damn it. I don't understand. Maybe not loop? Is that going to do anything? It's only giving me a few. Okay, maybe I'll try... What if I just use... All right, let me try one more thing here. So we can start with this one. And then if we go to this one, come on. This is so dumb. So dumb. I wanted to just go through all of these in detail. So manual. Let's try adding these in differently. Like if we do that. Okay, so that seems to work. I'll have to do this for each of them. All right, sorry guys, I don't really understand what the problem is here. Computers. Okay, so let's go back to these. So first of all, we have this character here, and I've compared this to a few... you didn't really miss much, Tazo. We're just talking about the... I was just talking about the interviews and pointing out some of the things that he said. We haven't really gotten into the meat of things yet. So just starting on looking at screen caps from the trailer. So this is the first shot. This is, I would assume, an NPC. This dress, this garb, is not something that looks like anything in the base game. I've compared it to, it's not Melena's, it's not any of those like royalty kind of things, although there's some similarities. But as far as I can tell, this is a completely new cloak or dress, whatever this is. So I would guess new NPC, probably the person who will kind of lead us into the Shadow Realm via the egg after you beat Moog. So, yeah, not much to say there, just that it doesn't appear to be anyone from the base game, so it's going to be someone new. Could be Rico, which was the cut content NPC, who has this dialogue about finding Saint Trina's or Mikola's cadaver. So Cosmos says, I believe it's the night guy in front of the rune later in the trailer. Interesting. Okay, we'll take a look at that. This is no different than in base game. And we get our first shot of what the Shadow Realm looks like. Few different shots of that. We'll come back to this in a moment. Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Let's compare that. So, got a sort of faint light blue with this gold filigree. That could very well be it. It's kind of hard to tell with the lighting. But that does look like a sort of cloak around the armor. Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting observation. And he's got this interesting crest there. Can't really tell what that looks like. Yeah, not much to say about this guy. Obviously, we have this rune here. This appears to be very close. So going back to the previous image, you know, we can see... Actually, maybe it's best to kind of go to this immediately. So, I'll just close that for a second. So, this is the sort of largest image of the land that we can get. And I sort of went through it and just looked at some of the topography of, you know, how this is laid out in order to try and get a sense of what the map looks like. Now over here you can see this sort of Celian style building. It looks a little bit like the style of architecture in Celia and Ordina. And it looks like there's one of those map, what do you call it, map things, the map fragment little obelisk there. So this appears to be basically to the right of this perspective. So if we're looking at, let's imagine that we're looking north. That seems likely. If we're looking north, then if you see at the bottom, sort of right of the screen, bottom middle right, that is that Celian city with these veils, these sort of drapes covering parts of it. Here, I can get rid of that so you can see it more clearly. And you can see this cliff on the left side with the roots coming out. So when we go to this view, you can see that we are now on the eastern part of that view. And you can see something in the background there, which is important because that appears to be this. If you compare that sort of crumbling top part that kind of resembles Farum Azula, you can see that is in the background right here. So that means that that this place is off to the west, off to the left of the screen right now. Yes, L of Music, Belfry as well. So maybe there's a closer image. of it. It's a little bit hard to see. Hold on. Let me go back to this and see if there's a closer... maybe it's in here. Oh yeah, this is a bit easier to see, I think. Okay, I'll come back to that, but there does appear to be something that looks like one of the belfries. Uh, it's sort of just to the west. If I remember, it's a little bit small on my screen right now. I think it's just to the west of that middle castle. Um, so anyway, I was looking at this and I came up with the crazy theory that this is where the Realm of Shadow is, the center of the map, or where it was. Partly because, you know, if I was designing a game and you tell me, okay, well, like, what kind of map size are we aiming for? It's going to be something about the size of Limgrave or bigger. I'd be like, hey, what happened in the middle of the map? That seems like a nice, nice place to fill in, you know. Um, and as I was looking at these pictures, I was noticing something about the trees because you have these coniferous trees on the right-hand side and deciduous trees on sort of the far left. Now, in my mind, in the base game, I was thinking, oh yeah, coniferous trees are more associated with like Liurnia, whereas the deciduous trees are more in like Limgrave and Altus Plateau. I'm actually, that's not exactly right. So, um, where is it? Oh, it's, hold on. I put it in the other one. Sorry, I've got like a million different things going on my screen right now. Trailer screen caps, no. Game. Where did I put it? Promo pics? No. Game concept? Oh, did I not even do it? Okay, wait. Let me find it again. So it's actually base game pics here. So if you look at Limgrave, you've got deciduous trees. And then on the western edge of Liurnia, you do have much more of the coniferous trees as opposed to the deciduous trees. And if you look at Liurnia in general, you see sort of a mix. Like the swamp is deciduous trees. The Cathedral of Manicelis that's got some of those, excuse me, those coniferous trees. But then, you know, when you go to Lendell, you've really got a mix of them. So there isn't a clear mix. So that was a fun idea, but I'm not sure it really holds up. However, I don't know. I just really like this idea of the map being the Shadow Realm being the middle of the map, and it would kind of make sense if it was connected to the lands between at some point. Well, if it was physically connected, then it's got to land somewhere on this map, and the middle seems as good a place as any. And if you look at, this is my amazing drawing, be kind to me. I just sort of detailed out some of the different things here. We've got this, so we've got this, I'll just point it out in this photo. We've got this sort of Mordor-looking tower that's collecting the tree sap. And then in front of that, closer to the perspective of the camera, we've got this sort of two-part tower, you know, a smaller tower connected by a bridge to a larger tower, and then there's sort of some flying buttresses around that, and some general castle-y kind of stuff going on there. In one of the closer-up images, you can actually see a castle even further back. I think it's this one. No, not this one. But this does give a pretty good view. So you can see that there's several different, what I would assume are legacy dungeons going on here. And then off to the right, you can see, not in this picture. Let's go back to this. You can see, if you look to on the right hand side, you can see there's a structure there, which sort of seems to resemble. You can see it there as well, directly above the tarnished head. Some people have been saying it resembles Manicelis, the Cathedral of Manicelis, and I don't want to go too much in that direction because, well, let me just put up a picture of Manicelis and then we can see. Not that. That's not Manicelis. Where is it? There we go. Off to the left. Wait, I had a closer one. There we go. So that's Manicelis. You can see definitely a resemblance. This is from a different angle as well. So, kind of hard to tell. Let's go back to this. Where is it? Oh, not that. Not that either. Oh my god, there's too many. Yeah, so there, above the tarnished head, you can see that structure is sort of similar. There's a bit of a resemblance there, which is interesting. I mean, that doesn't mean they're the same place or anything like that, or even that they're connected. They could just be, I mean, it could be something completely different, but it could also just be, you know, Aryan architecture of some type. Yeah, it does have a similar structure. I don't want to go more than that. But considering that that's also where the coniferous trees are in more quantity, maybe there's something to it. And that sort of leads me to my crazy idea that we're upside down. So here we have, there's the shadow of the Erdtree, there's that thing that's collecting the sap, that other structure in front of it with the bridge. There's a sort of castle further back, this sort of pantheon-looking thing, the enormous twisty spiral thing with the Faramazula bits flying off. We have this other legacy dungeon in front of us, the Salian thing down at the bottom, and then that Manicelis-looking thing over to the right. Now, if you match this on to this backwards, it kind of works. I know this is peak schizo lore speculation, but it kind of makes sense. So the right side of this map is the left side of this map, and vice versa, which means that this is beneath Faramazula, and the Manicelis thing is beneath Manicelis, or something along those lines. So everything's flipped upside down. And there's another little tidbit that kind of makes this seem more likely, which is, let's see, is it in the promo image? Yeah, you can see these sort of no, it's actually in the trailer screen caps, isn't it? Yeah, I guess that's the best one I have. So you can see at the bottom here, in this sort of lowlands part where the Salian ruins are, you can see these trees, but they're clearly not trees. They are roots. I mean, they really look like roots. And I think they are the roots on the opposite side of the land. So if we're flipped upside down, then instead of a tree coming out, we have roots coming out. And actually, if we look at the top of this shadow of the Erdtree, you see this. Actually, let me just zoom this in a bit more. You see this golden stuff coming out, which to me that looks more like roots. So first of all, we have this inversion of the Erdtree, right? It's got gold on the inside and it's got a sort of solid outside, as opposed to the this, where we have gold on the outside and solid on the inside. But here also you can see that the Erdtree's branches look like branches, whereas this, to me, the gold things coming out look like roots. And one thing about the Erdtree is that the gold part does not have any roots. So when you go down to where Godwin is, there's physical roots there, but it doesn't have any, there's no gold roots. So what if this is the gold roots? As above, so below. It's the most famous line from the Emerald Tablet. I think that's what's going on here. So that's my theory. We're upside down. We're on the root side. And my theory is, you know, I wonder if I have it here. Hold on. Because there is... Do I have it? Do I have it? The original... I don't seem to have it. The original map, a sort of a pre-release map of the game, I think maybe it was just a concept map, makes it very clear that this middle part is a crater. So if you imagine that some major event, something crashed into the middle of the lands between so hard that it pushed the land out the other side, out the bottom, then that's what the Shadow Realm is. That's my theory. I'm going to stick with it. I also think this is possibly connected to Eochaid, or Yochid, or however you want to say it, for a number of reasons. There seems to be an emphasis on thorns and fire, and if you look at Elimer's armor, let me see if I have it here. Oh yeah. Well, I've got one of the things here. So that is right here. So this is one of the details on Elimer's armor. It is this creepy demon woman who has two snakes coming out of her head. He also has these lion medallions on him. And, you know, we're dealing with snakes and lions in the trailer, so yeah, my guess is some connection to Eochaid. We also have the connection with thorns, and we'll see some things with thorns in the trailer images. And also things relating to the Crucible, which Eochaid seems to be related to. You have this red gold kind of sword stuff that allows you to move the sword through the air with your mind. So Gaz asks, so no Helfin. So the Helfin, first of all, I want to clear up something, because I hear people saying this all the time. The Helfin is not a place, right? The Helfin is a tree. The Helfin would exist in the spirit world. The spirit world might have a name. There might be a place within the spirit world that has a name. The Helfin is not that place. It's just the tree that exists in that place. Now, when we look at the Helfin steeple, let me find it. There's too many images here. Okay. Helfin steeple. Classic image. I guess this is the concept art here. Okay, the Helfin steeple is clearly this is the right way up because we can see there's like a little door almost into it. And the branches are curved down, which to me looks like a coniferous tree. Now, my initial theory was that the Helfin is the roots of the Erdtree. I may still go along with that, but it's possible there's something else going on. And beyond which, we seem to have two trees here. So we've got one which is the shadow of the Erdtree, and then we have this other thing that's wrapping around it. It's possible that one of those is the Helfin, or both. It's possible that there's something else which is the Helfin. Now, if we're going to be following in Miquella's footsteps, in a way similar to the Sites of Grace, then it's possible that we'll be following the Helfin Lamplight rather than Grace. It's possible that the spirit world is just something entirely separate than all of these. I think one of the things with Elden Ring lore is that we shouldn't try too hard to make everything sort of fit together and tied up with a bow. Like, it's a very expansive world, and there's things that are beyond anything that we see. It doesn't all have to wrap around, you know. There doesn't have to be tight borders on everything. There can be things that we just have passing reference to that we never see in the game. So the spirit world, there could be things related to the spirit world. I mean, there's also the question of if this land was connected to the lands between, does that mean, first of all, is there something else? If we have the land of shadow and the lands between, is there a land of light? That's one question. Another question would be, did the land of shadow exist before this place was moved there? Or was the land of shadow created by the event which detached this? So I don't really know. It's possible that there's many layers to the world. It's possible that there's many universes and many worlds. So, yeah, Lands of Shadow might have a strong connection with death, Cecilia says. Definitely. Enya calls the Rune of Death the Forbidden Shadow. And there has to be some event that caused this Land of Shadow to be detached from the rest of the world. I'm avoiding saying detached from the lands between because I don't know whether the lands between was the lands between before the Land of Shadow was detached. It's possible that it only became the lands between with the detachment of this place. But you know, if a land of shadow was detached from the world, and we have the rune of death, the forbidden shadow was removed from the Elden Ring, that it seems like there might be a connection there. So, okay, let's go back to the trailer pics. So, oops, what am I doing here? Move this around. Okay, so we were looking at this. Excuse me. Oh, so we've got this guy. And that's a pose, so we can assume that this is an NPC rather than a player character in armor. Few interesting things. So we have this sort of Roman style armor with what appears to be a wolf pelt, I would guess, on the back. There's a few similarities between this and Radahn's armor. And his sword, I think Queelag pointed this out, the sword hilt has this sort of swirly design, which is very similar to Radahn's sword. Maybe I can find that. That would be right here. So this. So you see that swirly design at the hilt. Um, this sword sort of resembles that. And Radahn's armor is also very much inspired by that kind of Roman style with the sort of pleated kilt sort of thing and greaves. Now, there are also similarities between that style and Elimer's armor and the Exile soldiers. Um, and potentially the Kaiden and the Raging Wolf set. I don't know if I'm reading too much into that, um, but it would make sense if this sort of Roman style armor is connected to the culture of the Land of Shadow and something previous to the dominant Erdtree culture right now, because we also have the gladiators, and as we know, we're going to be exploring some snake themes in this expansion. The gladiators have these snakes. It seems like they were some remnant of an army that was defeated, or a culture that was defeated, and then forced to serve as gladiators, and gladiators would have this Roman connection. So potentially there's some connection here between all of those things, and maybe Eocade. I don't know why Radahn would fit into that. Could just be unrelated, could be all just speculation here. Moving on, we have this. We got the Havel armor back, finally. Not much to say about this, except that I'm excited to get some nice heavy armor with good drip, because I hate the bull goat armor. A few people have been saying these are Trina lilies. These are not lilies, and they're definitely not Trina lilies. I don't think those are lilies, at least. I'm not a botanist or anything, but they appear to be something else. They do have this purple thing. Potentially in the back there, those are Trina lilies, but the flowers here on the floor in the front are not, as far as I can tell. We have someone who is masked, and honestly, don't have much else to say about it. I get kind of Zamor vibes, but they're just super vaguely. Yeah, in the background, I think those might be the lilies, but the ones in the front are not. And the fact that they're potentially sleeping, so there may be some connection there with Trina. Don't really have much to say about that one otherwise. Now, this location, in the trailer stream, I was suggesting that it may be the Church of the Cuckoo, because I was thinking maybe we're going to like a, Dark World version of the Lands Between, which I don't think we are. This appears to be something different, but certainly related, thematically at least, with the bird cages. So if I bring up... Oops, I muted myself. If I bring up this is the Church of the Cuckoo in the base game. There's all these bird cages, many of them with cuckoos inside. And they all have like wax covering their eyes, which is weird. Yeah, so going along with the theme of inversion, here we have the Carrion inverted statue, but it's right side up, similar to the one that we place in the Carrion study hall to flip it upside down. Let me just look at the back here. Right, so let's take a look at this again. Damn, it is a pretty striking resemblance. It's not a one-to-one match, but it is very similar. Yeah, it looks a bit bigger, but we do have these like the benches. We do have this similar. Oh, wow, I never really noticed these gargoyle statues. That's pretty cool. Probably not much of a lore thing there, just cool looking gargoyles. Um, but yeah, definitely a similarity. And yeah, different type of floor as well. You know, we've got these like marble floors in the Church of the Cuckoo. We've got this stone thing here. Maybe indication that it's older. Kind of hard to tell. Here we have candles lighting the place. Here we have something else, possibly glintstone, possibly something else. So probably a connection. It certainly seems, I mean, the back window there seems like a Carrion style. In fact, I want to say that window is um, also in the Manicelis Cathedral. So some connection between those things. I don't want to say exactly what yet, but certainly a connection. Yeah, astrologer, something along those lines. Um, I don't think this guy is the inverted statue guy. It's not a one-to-one match, so let me bring up the... I also saw people saying it was Renala, young Renala, and it seems pretty clearly a guy. It doesn't look like Renala at all, so... oh, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Right, let me turn on my... so I know what I've got here. Where's my... All right, let me get a angle here. Let's go from the side, maybe. Kind of hard to see it exactly, but there is a similar type of hat, that sort of flat-topped hat. But I don't think it is... That's a bit clearer. So again, some relationship, but not necessarily... I mean, and obviously this sort of... as I mentioned in the previous stream, this kind of lotus Buddha neck brace kind of thing. And the robes are different. I don't think it's the same guy. I think that's just... It's just something different. Yeah. But again, I mean, the whole place seems to have this Aryan, Raya Lucaria astrologer connection. So I'm not saying that they're totally unrelated, but I don't think that's like, I doubt that that statue is of a guy, of a specific person, you know? Oh, thank you, Scholar of Corland, for giving me this the text here. So the Carian inverted statue reads, "Statuette of a scholar with ground and sky inverted, reveals the hidden form of the Carian study hall, which connects to the divine tower." And the ghost in the entryway says, "O celestial globe, transmit to prosperity the wisdom of the moon and stars, and obscure forever the transgressions of the princess." Wow, I don't remember that text at all. That is very interesting. That is very interesting. Anyway, I don't think this is Renala. I don't think it's the carrion inverted statue guy. The back of the chair here, the back of the throne, kind of resembles something that I can't quite. It's not the giant Nox uh, thrones, but it reminds me of something, and I can't quite place it. So I might have to look at that in more detail. Might be nothing. Okay, so let's move on to the next set, which is here. And where did we go first? Let's start with... Is this the first one? Well, we can start here. I mean, it doesn't really matter the order. I took this one separately because I wanted to point out that this is a new armor with like two sort of... It's like the Raptor's black cloak, but it's got these two parts to it. It might be clearer in the actual trailer itself, but you can see that it's a different kind of armor. This place, don't know what to make of it, except that it's... People are saying this is a death blight swamp. I don't know if that's true. I think it's... To me, it looks like there's just gold, veins of gold in the ground or in the water. I don't know if it's death blight. So, not sure exactly what's happening there. Got some gold flowers. Kind of almost appears to be underground, but it's hard to say. There's definitely, the left side. It's hard to say whether this is underground or not. Okay, then we have this painting, and this guy will, I think, based on the clothing we'll see later on. And then, of course, there's this woman. Now, people have been saying she's pregnant. She doesn't really look pregnant to me. The hand placement is just something, just sort of a pose. Maybe she's pregnant, but it's not obvious to me. She seems to have black hair, so that's kind of interesting. No idea who this guy is. My immediate vibe was Morgott, but that wouldn't make much sense, and I don't think it's Morgott. But potentially connected. Hold on. Look at the belt, though. Which belt? Oh, I see. The woman's belt? Yeah, I see what people are seeing there, but the perspective is sort of weird. I can't really tell how her body is positioned. So it's a little bit hard for me to say, like, yeah, maybe she's pregnant. I wouldn't say it's a given. Um, Usher of Death Roses. That would be interesting. I suspect that it's just someone entirely new, honestly. Um, yeah, I don't know. Is she pregnant? Like because from the waist down, I don't really get how her body is positioned. So I just don't want to say that that she's obviously pregnant. I think it's... I'll leave that open for speculation. We'll look at this guy in more detail a little bit later when he's pulling this crap out of his head. Giant pots, not sure exactly what that's used for. Kind of looks like they're on like some sort of pulley system for some reason, maybe a well to bring, a liquid to the surface. Water Probably something more magical than that. Potentially, if we had this, gold veins in the water before, maybe it's a way of getting that gold. I don't know. And this appears to be underground. Um, so lava, we've got some sort of volcano-ish area. And actually, well, we'll get to it in a moment, I think, but there is a little bit of, actually, I can just pull it up here. Hold on. No, not this one. So if you look basically directly in the middle of the screen, and so that's, first of all, you see that thing that looks like a belfry tower. It's so there's this sort of directly in front of the camera, um, about halfway back, is this large castle structure which looks like a legacy dungeon. To the immediate left of that is this thing that looks like a belfry. And in between, in the distance, there is something gold, something fiery. Don't know what that is. Let me zoom in maybe and I can make it more obvious. Oh, that's not what I meant. Bring that back. We're here, so zoom this in. Super zoom in. Okay. So there. Do you see what I am looking at there? It almost looks like the Flame of Frenzy Eye or something. I don't think it is, but there's something of interest there. Point of interest. Um, oh, and by the way, I guess, yeah, you can see in this image, by the way, the bottom of the two trees, how there's a space in between. So that's also what I was talking about. And you can also see some kind of castle structure in the distance there. So I think there's quite a few. There's at least, I would say, at least 3 major legacy dungeons by the looks of this, if not more. And many more sort of minor things. But yeah, not really sure what this thing is, but anyway, just thought I'd point it out in relation to the lava, because I don't know, lava, fire, that's going to be an important thing. This structure, I guess I don't really have anything else to say about it except that clearly there's something going on with this crumbling gravitational thing, which is, resembles what we see in Farum Azula and also what we see when the star hits Limgrave. So, a similar type state is occurring here. I don't really know architectural style enough to kind of, hone in on what this might resemble or what it might not resemble. To me, it looks a bit like Lendel, a bit like Farum, a bit like some other structures. I can't really say anything clearly about that. Okay, moving on. We have this Wicker Man. I'm going to take a picture of the face. Yeah, so interestingly, there's sort of tendrils coming out. It actually resembles a bit of St. Trina's torch, which is possibly just a coincidence. And there's bodies burning inside, which could connect to the way that the fire giant burns his leg in order to sort of awaken the fell god. This idea of fire sacrifice giving you some sort of power. Ratatosker just uploaded a really interesting theory. Go check it out if you can. Okay, yeah, I will check out I'll check out what he has to say. Um, and also, by the way, we can isolate that this guy is based on the position of the tree and these castles and things. He's basically down right near that Sellian architecture. That's what you're seeing on the right, I think. So, how many tendrils does the Wickerman face have? Is it 8 like the fell god? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe. It kind of looks like just a lot. The swirls of the hair could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Could be 8. Yeah. Okay, we have this guy. One thing I didn't notice when we watched it, well, a couple things here. First of all, we have the same moon. So that's kind of interesting because even if we're in a like a parallel reality or a different dimension or different plane of existence or whatever, the moon is still there. Which kind of indicates that like the moon is, I guess it transcends whatever division there is between the land of shadow and the lands between. And oh, and the thing that I didn't notice before was that there's eyes. I don't know if you can see that. He's got these closed eyes all over his head. Oops. Let me just make this a bit bigger. Okay. Yeah, so you can see these closed eyes. 4 of them and probably 4 on the other side. What in the world are the spiral columns? That's a good question. They appear in lots of images, sort of corkscrew shapes. I don't know if it is anything more than just representation of the same sort of caduceus spiral tropes that we've seen regarding the Crucible, regarding, you know, the age before the Erdtree, and all that stuff, and snakes, of course. If the moon is there, then the land of shadow is influenced by the moon. This was the case in areas in the main game, Uncle Fred says. Yes. I think the moon is, you know, the moon is something occult and mysterious. It's something beyond the normal plane of existence. So the fact that you can see it in multiple realms kind of goes along with that. Then we have this guy. So a couple things. One is, to me, it immediately gives me Godfrey vibes. Obviously, Lionhead, the braids, similar to Godfrey's. Oddly, we see the Lionhead has a set of teeth, and then within that, there's like another set of teeth, which look maybe like horse teeth, or maybe, you know, manufactured like puppet teeth. Oh, I paused this so that you can see the design here on the armor. There's definitely an 8-pointed star there, so that's kind of interesting. I can't really make out the symbol next to it. Some kind of swirly thing. I don't really know what it is. We have the stomp, which resembles Godfrey's stomp, possibly Morgott. And I can't really tell what the design is on the fabric. Kind of looks like there's a gold leaf pattern, but it might just be, it's so tattered, you know. So here we have a good image of it. Line face, we got green eyes, which is interesting because of the connection to spirit tuners. We've got omen horns and antlers. Um, and oh, I guess I need to get the next view here. Do I have to do this one by one? Okay, that's fine. One second, 1 second. Where are we? Where are we? Shadow of the Erdtree, we got there. Did we get to that one? Okay, so... Okay, so... Is this where I was at? Yeah, so there's clearly one guy on top of another guy. There's like a guy hunched over, and then another guy standing on top of his back. I don't know if it's meant to be that they're actually just puppeteering him, or if they're connected to it in some way, if they're grafted. Um, yeah, people have pointed out the thing was sort of resembling these dragon dances or lion dances in like Chinese culture and so on. Um, yeah, I'm not sure what to make of this guy yet. That pedal design is similar to where did I put it? I guess I gotta look it up again. Similar to maybe completely unrelated, but oh, why is this so enormous? To this, this is in Raya Lucaria. It's not a match, but similar idea. So there may be some cultural relationship there. I think there's also similar designs in Lendel and Faramazula. Let's see. The lightning here, yeah, so one of the reasons that it kind of makes me think maybe they're more connected to the lion than just wearing it, is that the screenshot doesn't really clearly show it, and it's hard to tell in the trailer anyway, but it kind of looks like the lightning is coming from the lion's mouth. So maybe they're channeling this pelt to do something. Kind of hard to tell. Oh, I was going to look at some of the stuff in the background here. There's some statues. I can't really make out what those things in the back are. Hold on. No, 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 no. What are you doing? Why does it keep on changing? There we go. They almost look like imps. Can't really tell there. We have some of these sort of twisty tree designs. So you'll remember in the base game that we have the crossed tree tower shield, which depicts a caduceus tree. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Make this smaller again. Let me bring that up just so it's more clear. Icon shields. So this is the cross tree tower shield. It depicts an old interleaving tree, which is kind of interesting. So we already have some potential allusion to a spiral tree. I mean, one of the things which is kind of interesting is, okay, we have the shadow of the Erdtree, but we also have this other thing curling around it. Why don't we have something curling around the golden Erdtree? So maybe there was at one point. Cowpie says, I thought the lightning was summoned the way that dragon lightning is from the trailer, to be honest. Like it flew in from the sky and he catches it. Huh. Yeah, that's possible. I'll have to watch it again. Um, there's definitely like lightning coming down all around. It sort of looks like it's being manipulated by the mouth of the lion. And he like sort of throws it out of his mouth. Also, this appears to be fairly close to the Erdtree by this from this perspective. So possibly that structure, where was it? Possibly the one, not the one that's catching the sap, but the one directly in front of that. Possibly in there. Then we get some shots of Mesmer. Yeah, what's interesting is, so he summons this flame from his hand, but it starts as these dark tendrils, and then it sort of becomes like a almost blood incantation, and then it slowly catches fire. So there's almost like three elements going on there. This has some resemblance to the Dragon Communion seal. And also in this shot, it almost looks like there's runes, like shadow runes. You know, we have the two fingers speak this language of light, where they write runes in the air, and we have like the coded sword and the cipher pata, which you have these runes of light in the air. Maybe this is runes of shadow in the air. So resemblance to Blood Flame, resemblance to Rykard's Flame. Hold on, I need to get a cup of water. Give me 1 second here. Okay, I'm back. Looks very cool. So definitely Elric of Melnibone inspiration for that dragon helm, and also people have pointed out Grunbeld from Berserk, of course. You think it's Destined Death? Mixed into Fell Flame? Possibly. Yeah, I don't... My suspicion is that it's going to be, like with everything in Elden Ring already, it's going to be the same but different. I don't think it's going to be exactly corresponding to anything that we have in the base game. Oh, one thing which I meant to check out was, because the hilt on this sword spear reminds me of, I think, Mogwin, Moog's spear, possibly the Girandol. Let me check that out. Um, uh, kind of. I don't think that's what I was thinking of. Maybe it's the Girandol. Where is that? That's a spear, right? Oh, this? Um, no, that's not really it either. I feel like there's something that weird, that sort of pattern of um with those like spokes facing downwards, almost like it's that part of the wheel of a ship. That reminds me of some design somewhere. Maybe it's just Moog and I was sort of hallucinating that they were closer. Don't see it in anything here. Yeah, maybe it was just the Moog spear, and I was imagining it was more closely related than it really is. Just out of curiosity. No, it doesn't seem to have any resemblance. Moog Spear shows many bodies, while Mesmer's is more like the thorn pillars that killed the fire giants. Um, huh. Is that what I'm thinking of? Is that what I'm thinking of? Oops. Why is that so big? No, 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 no. Don't do that. One sec. Bring this back down to size. Let's put this, overlay them. Um, hmm. I don't know. The blade part isn't really, it's more like a flame design on Mesmer's spear rather than that caduceus twirly root thing. Um, hmm. It's like the tops. I don't know if I have a better picture than this right now. Yeah. I don't think there's really a connection there. The non-aesthetic witch says this takes place in the present, so I don't see the giants being very involved at all. Okay, that actually brings up a very good point. So, Miyazaki said that the shadow world, I keep on saying the shadow realm, so I'm thinking of Yu-Gi-Oh! Um, that the shadow world is the land of shadow. That's what it's called, the land of shadow. Which, by the way, if you look at the Japanese, one thing which I did look at in the Famitsu Japanese part is that he refers to the land of shadow in the same way that he refers to um, the land of in between place. So he calls it, um, I think, Hazama no Chi, like the land of the interstice, versus the land of shadow. So they're meant to be very much the same type of place, just with a different state, a different quality to them, if that makes sense. Um, what was I gonna say? Something about the giants. Oh yeah, so if the Erdtree was grown in the land of shadow, and the land of shadow used to be connected to the lands between, or what we now know as the lands between, we know that the fire giants were enemies of the Erdtree. And we know that the age of the Erdtree only began with the conclusion of the war with the fire giants. But we know that the fire giants were enemies of the Erdtree, and that they attacked it. They summoned, what was it, storms of flame, and so on. So that would sort of imply the fire giants waged war on the land of shadow, or what was the land of shadow. So I don't think that the giants are necessarily that involved now, but I would fully expect some more context for the war with the giants, um, given that that seems to be related to this whole origin story of America and her creating the Erdtree and the detachment of this shadow world. Ace Roy asks, could the shadow Erdtree be a burned tree? Yeah, that's been floated around. It's kind of hard to say because, oops, that's not what I meant. Where was it? We'll go to those in a minute. There is all this sort of black soot coming from the trees. It could be the result of them being burned. It could just be a result of them being, in the shadow world. Those could be one and the same thing. Um, could be that fire is involved in the whole creation of this world, or the detachment of it. I'm sort of thinking of the analogy of like, um, in like a nuclear blast, how someone's silhouette could be like imprinted against a wall. It's like this shadow, very creepy, very macabre kind of thing. I wonder if destined death could, like the flames of destined death could have like exploded across this land and like burned it into shadow, something like that. So maybe, I don't know. It's hard to tell whether that's really a burned tree or just a dead tree. So, okay, let's go back to this. And we get these guys. So they clearly have omen horns, and I'm going to need to delete all these. Hold on. One sec. Let me add in the more. I don't know why this slideshow can only handle like 20 pictures. It makes no sense. There's got to be some setting there that I don't understand. It could be more involved with the Fell God rather than giants themselves. That's also a possibility. I mean, I think there is something like this is sort of I feel like in Dark Souls, like the big question that I felt nobody ever asked was why did Gwyn go to war with the dragons in the first place? Wait, why is this? Okay, I don't understand why I'm having to do this now. This is wild. In a similar way, my question is like, well, why did the fire giants? Why were they enemies of the Erdtree? Why did Marika create the Erdtree in the first place? It doesn't really. We don't have like enough context for what that means or what the implication of these things are. So I think there's a context to be added there about what oh, come on. No. Sorry, I'm struggling with this right now. We are here and we're going to use all of this. Okay. Yeah, so I have no idea, like, what is the Fell God's deal? What is his affiliation, or does he have a purpose, a goal? Why did the fire giants, what's the problem with them? Why do we need to, like, eradicate them? And why did one have to remain? Okay, so just continuing on to these pictures, the candlestick here is oops, the candlestick here is it's sort of angled, and to me, it looks like the sort of rib cage thing that we'll see that old guy pulling out of his head later on, upside down. But obviously connections to the candle tree idea and potentially these things, you know. So, anyway, not much else to say about these guys. They've got, like, very dark skin. I almost want to say, like, Zamor similarities with the bracelets, but clearly with, like, omen horns. Oh, here we see these reverse grip swords that Miyazaki mentioned. So that's a new weapon type. Do they have the same robes as the old guy? That's interesting. We don't really get a good view from the front. Let me try going to the actual trailer and opening it up. So there's that. So this guy, I mean, the robes are so tattered. Do we get a clear shot of the front of any of them? Oh, whoops. Why did that happen? Go back, go back, go back, go back. Right, is it after this? Yeah, there we go. I don't think we got a shot of the front anywhere. Oh, maybe. Nothing clear. I think the brooch is different, but definitely could be a similarity. So, Yeah, possibly. It's an interesting observation. There's at least three of them here. And this sort of appears to be underground. That's what kind of what it looks like, although it could just be a very dark place. Uh, the moon earlier also indicates that we have a day-night cycle. And there's some other shots that sort of make that seem likely. So, or at least something like a day-night cycle. We have this, so we have these throwing daggers, which seems to be a weapon. It's not an item. This appears to be... Actually, initially I thought it was that sort of Sellian ruin from the beginning, but actually it looks a lot bigger. So it may be, but it kind of looks like a much larger place, but similarly with these drapes covering parts of it. So obviously we have these giant sort of ethereal veils in the sky, some connection there with the drapes. This guy, oh yeah, the interesting thing about this guy is he's wielding an iron cleaver, which is what the Misbegotten wield. His face appears to be humanoid. It kind of looks like a skull or a very emaciated face. And he's got what seem to be like chains on the ankles, so he's some sort of slave, perhaps. Why did I take? Oh yeah, here you can see when he gets staggered, like the throwing dagger, it almost makes these Well, maybe it's easier to show in the actual trailer. Uh, so it like causes this stuff to fly off that looks like little bits of rock. I was just wondering if that has anything to do with the way that the lion dancer guy sort of has that windy rock breath. Anyway, that was just a minor thing, but yeah, so I sort of wonder if this is like who the misbegotten were before they were misbegotten, or maybe the human part of the misbegotten that was left behind. Like if you mix a human with all these animal aspects, then the human parts that you're not using, maybe that's the shadow of them. Because it does say in the game that misbegotten are treated like slaves from birth or worse. So if this guy's a slave and he's wielding that iron cleaver, I don't know, kind of suggests a similarity there. Then we get this. This seems to be, I would assume, a player character wearing this stuff rather than an NPC or a boss. We get that lion, that crucible lion looking thing in the statue there, and pink butterflies. And here we get more of these things. Here they don't look so much like roots, but rather like a willow tree. And I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be any more symbolism about like the different types of trees, because um, yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't really have any thoughts about that. I just wanted to point it out, and clearly they're like twisting around. So it almost seems more like the secondary tree that's twisting around the Erdtree. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know there. Oh yeah, these people that are being attacked. If you look at the third from the left, you can see the sword there. It looks a little bit like the dragon scale blade. It's not an exact match, but it's sort of similar design. Where is that? Let me bring that up just to compare. So right there. So I don't know if there's any connection there. The dragon scale blade is presumably of um, Noxian manufacture. So could be a connection with the Noxier, um, or possibly even Newman. Yeah, and I was also trying to look at the pose, but I don't. It kind of looks like one of the order poses, but I think it's just a completely new thing. Um, Here we have. It's a little bit more difficult to tell than when I was looking at it before, but we can see this sort of sigil on the knight's um, plate, which has this sort of forked forked golden tree. Possibly, to me, it kind of looks like roots, golden roots. So could relate to that sort of golden root structure coming out of the shadow of the Erdtree. Also, new twin blade and some new drip and some new fighting moves. So that's all pretty great. Um, oh, I think I was just looking at this to get perspective of where things are. So this is sort of further in the middle from that first view that we had of the whole landscape. This is like further in the middle and slightly to the left, near the bridge that would lead you to that first major legacy dungeon. There's that sort of Greco-Roman Colosseum, or not Colosseum, Pantheon type thing in the background, which means that the Faramazula looking tower castle is on the left from here. Um, and that looks like it in the distance on the back right. So this seems to be a reverse shot almost. You can see the spiked fences, so it's a similar place. Then we have this guy, some more drip. Nice looking forest, and there's some other promotional images which we'll look at. So kind of interesting to see that there's still fairly like pleasant greenery, which is odd for a shadow world. The grace is pouring into the structure from that perspective. Yeah, I think definitely that sort of rune arc shaped building is collecting the golden sap coming from the Erdtree. One thing which is kind of, I was playing with the idea that like, the age of abundance it was short lived, and now like the lands between everything's been, it's kind of degrading. It's held in stasis, and it's trying to keep itself alive, but like everything's dying. The fallen leaves, right, tell a story. I wonder if it's because part of the Erdtree, part of that gold is like leaking into the world of shadow, and that's what's going on there. The way Destined Death is spoken of by Enya in the GQ Godskin items, it's heavily implied to be an entity. Um, don't know about that. I don't think I see that. Um, to me, destined death is more sort of symbolically associated with a weapon. It's always treated as like a sword, right? It's the black blade and the God Slayer's great sword. It even looks like a sword. Uh, that's the sort of, at least symbolically, the association that I get is it's like it's something that you use against someone. It's the shadow equivalent of Deathroot. Yeah, I think that's basically right. Like Deathroot is something from the shadow world creeping into our world or into the lands between, and this golden sap is the gold from the lands between uh, seeping into this world. The Black Blade of Elric of Melniboné. Yeah, exactly. The Black Blade. So in the Eternal Champion stories, the Eternal Champion always has a black sword of chaos, and it usually is. There's various different forms of it, but Elric's is Stormbringer. There's actually two Black Blades with him, but it sucks the souls of its enemies, and it's sort of it wants to kill. It has a will of its own. It's sort of implied to be almost sentient. It wants to kill even those closest to him, and it sort of takes him into a killing spree. Read your previous message. Let me scroll up. There are soldiers with armor decorations exactly like Godfrey's armor. The screenshot with the porcupine spikes spell. We'll get to that, I think. I'm not sure what you mean with the Godfrey's armor, but I'll look at that. Debit says it's funny to me nobody mentioned the Demon Souls connection to Elric. What would be the Demon Souls connection? I'm sort of unrelated, but I'd be interested, D-Bits, if you want to elaborate on that. Okay, moving on. Right, we have this guy. Oh yeah, okay, I need to bring up the new images. So let's get rid of all of these. I have to figure out a better way to do this. This is so annoying. Okay, here's some more images. So we have this presumably incantation similar to Dragon Communion incantations, but instead of a dragon, it's a bear with horns and what looks like red wolf fur. So one of the things when I was looking at the game data, um, things like the code, the developers put in like little comments for things in the code, like enemy spawns and so on. So in the game data, the red wolves are actually called rune wolves. Exactly the same as the rune bears are called, like rune bear, rune wolf. So I wonder if there's a connection there. Potentially also a connection to the Crucible, which is, here we have three distinct things sort of mixed together, so that would make sense. Yeah, Crucible Bear. Definitely a Crucible connection, I think. And this appears to be on the west side of the map. Not perhaps further south than that Farah Missoula tower. And then we have this, and we have boats. So I didn't notice this in the stream. That's clearly the back of like a galleon or something like that. I don't know boats, but it's a very large boat. And that's sort of interesting because on the map, we do get images of boats. Let's see, where is it? Are there any here? Yeah, so for example, here. And in various places we see these ruins of boats. And in fact, I think it's the concept art. Find that. Is it for Khalid? I think it's Khalid. It's like Radon's Arena or something. Just give me a moment to find it here. That's too far, isn't it? It's all underground. There's Radon's Arena. Boom. Oops. That's what I meant to do. Oh, stop moving around. Yeah, so rather large. Excuse me. I may have to end it soon because my voice is going. I keep on coughing. EA Car says on medieval maps, ships indicated areas of safe passage while drawings of fish and whales showed good fishing areas. Yeah, I wouldn't make too much of the map, but we do have, like, literally, like, it doesn't quite look like this in game, but we do have these boat ruins, these, like, debris. What do you call it? Flotsam? Jetsam? No, jetsam is what you jettison. Flotsam is what floats. Derelict. Derelict is what I think. Anyway, so we have these boats here, and there's another one, and we also have the what am I thinking of? Oh, the old ruins. So, if we're going back to a culture before the Erdtree, then that naturally inspires thoughts of the old, the ancient dynasty, which also may connect with the idea of the Mogwin dynasty being this sort of revival. So on the Newman, on the old stone pillars, there are these reliefs of like boats arriving. And so I would bet that these are the boats of the Newman when they arrived in the lands between before the Shadow, before it became the Shadow world, that they arrived here. And we can also see, by the way, that there's water off on the side here. So this is like also in the sea, this whole realm. Something like that. Yeah, I think it's the Newman's boats. Soulbrand and Demonbrand are likely inspired by Stormbringer and its brother weapon Mournblade in Eternal Champion, since Stormbringer can drink the souls of its victim like Elant, lowering your soul level. That, you're so right. I never even thought of that. Yeah, you're totally right. And also the storm ruler. Yeah. What are those tombstone conglomerates? Yeah, I was going to point that out. I mean, the tombstone thing, I'm not sure. I feel like there's a metaphor here, which I'm not quite grasping, because we also have in Limgrave and Liurnia, maybe some other places, you have like these cliff walls which are literally made of tombstones, hundreds of tombstones, and they seem to be almost made of gold, that's been like worn away and tarnished. So yeah, I'm not really sure what the idea is there, like the conglomerate tombstone and that being part of the land almost. Um, and we have this red dancer who looks really annoying to fight. Couldn't quite tell where we are in this picture, but there's something in the back there which I can't tell if that's just like mountain or if it's part of the shadow of the Erdtree. So I was trying to get a good look at that, but the trailer doesn't really give us a good clear view. And that brings us back here. So let me open up some more images. Oh, where is it? We are back to here. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, then we get this guy, the tusk. So we're very close to the base of the tree. Um, I mentioned the purple lightning. I was thinking of Saint Trina, but clearly also a gravity connection there. Um, has a sort of tree sentinel look to him. I was going to look more closely at the armor to see if we can see anything. Kind of hard to tell what that helm looks like. A lot of filigree that I don't think means anything. This red cloak on the pig is similar to what the lion dancer was wearing. And by the way, with regards to that, it's also reminding me of I put in these this the whole banished knight thing. They have these crucible horns, they have these root designs on them. um Red is sort of an important color in the cloths and so on. So I wonder if there's a connection. And the cloak here is kind of similar to that Roman warrior looking guy that we saw before. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. Potentially some connection with the Banished Knights. Um, this guy, I don't know. Where did the veteran get his cape? Looks like a wolf cape, I would say, but kind of hard to tell. But there's a lot of, the Banished Knight armor. It has a lot of like these thorn motifs. Uh, I know I can find on the gauntlets are really clear. If I can find it. Wait, where is it? Hello? Why am I not seeing it? Image? Why can I not? Oh, there we go. Um, yeah, that thorn motif in the that's all over the Banished Knights. So I would expect again thorns, roots, briars, all potentially connected to the Crucible. And if anyone hasn't seen my video on the Crucible, I did cover a lot of things that I feel will probably be relevant to the DLC, although I don't know how much of it I would agree with now because that was almost a year ago probably. Um, but you know, I did look at connections between Eocade with thorns, with briars, with blood magic, with hexes, with Gelmir. Um, so there's a lot of different connections there that seem to be some of the themes that we're going to be dealing with. Okay, moving on. We get this hungry, hungry hippo. There's the moon again in the background. Over to the right of the tree, which means that we're basically looking at a similar layout. Um, possibly golden teeth. Also, this guy, if you look at the top of his head, it's this weird, like, bulbous, patchy thing. And then if you look at it here, it looks like it's maybe a bud, which makes sense when he does this, which, by the way, resembles the Elden Beast attack, except it produces these deathroot spikes. So it's almost as if they sprout not just from his back, but from his head. In fact, it may be only from his head. Kind of hard to tell from this angle. So very similar to, I think it's the Elden Stars attack, which is, it uses the incantation for Elden Stars uses the ancient Erdtree sigil and is said to be one of the oldest Erdtree incantations. So there's a connection there. We're going back to the Crucible. We have this guy. I really don't know what the deal is with this guy. The horse. Again, there's this theme with riders and sort of being attached to their horses, like the Tree Sentinels and Loretta. I almost get the sense that, like, they're one creature. They're not like people riding horses. They're actually like one thing. Uh, coming out of slime. No idea what's going on there. This guy. Yeah, so this is definitely the guy from before. The same brooch. Um, he's pulling this out of himself. And it's like acting as his rib cage. It's just so weird. But I think maybe if this theme of golden roots, it's the thing that we don't get in the base game, right? We get the golden tree, but we don't get the golden roots. I think this will be important. The golden roots. That brooch emblem is on the duelist greaves? Really? Let me take a look at that. Um, the duelist greaves. Oh god, there's so much armor here. Wait, hold on. Uh, it's not. It's not that close. I mean, definitely the idea of the eye, which now that I think about it, this definitely gives me vibes of the Fell God. Hmm. Yeah, his brooch looks like could be an eye in the middle, could be there's like three sort of swirly things. Not totally sure. The other thing about this thing that's impaling him is it has this sort of crystalline look to it. Um, which kind of reminds me of the spear that stabs America. I don't know if there's meant to be a resemblance there. Check the watchdog staff. Okay. L of Music, if you want to take a screenshot and send it to me in the Discord, I would very much appreciate that. Let me take a look at the watchdog staff. I mean, actually, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a connection between the watchdog staff and the gladiators, given that um, the gladiator is the uh, burial watch guy. Also, there's that sainted hero's grave, which has all the shadows in it, and it has a gladiator guy and a Newman assassin waiting outside. Where's the watchdog staff? Oh, it's a colossal weapon, isn't it? Colossal. Um, Not quite, but I can see the similarity. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if that possibly pregnant lady in the picture is Merica, and if this guy is her first husband. That's just wild speculation. Just putting it out there as a possibility. Um, do I think he's going to hit us with his head in his boss fight? Probably. That feels like a Miyazaki thing to do. He pulls off his head and hits us with it. Um, I thought so too at first, but she has black hair. Well, people's hair color can change, as we know from the fire monks and from Melina. And also, that would line up pretty nicely with my idea that Marika was the Glowmite Queen. So, hmm. Um, yeah, people's hair color can change. Oh yeah, this was a close-up of those spears. They seem to have those seem to be two snakes, I think, on either side. That's the idea there. What's interesting is this attack sort of resembles the attack that the clean rot spear does. Let me find the clean rot spear. Malekith fights the queen though? Yeah, and he goes mad. And as we know from Blythe, if you turn on your Empyrean, you go mad. Where's the spear? It is right here. So this spear has I can't remember if the player can actually use it. I think you can, where a bunch of spears stab up from the ground. In any case, the Clean Rot Knights do it. And I think there maybe is... Oh, I wonder if maybe I can compare him to the Clean Rot Knights, because we'll just go to concept art. Clean Rot, Clean Rot, Clean Rot. Where are you? I sort of wonder if Mesmer is to Melania what Saint Trina is to Mikola. You know, the winged helmet, the little wings on the helmet, there's kind of a similarity there. I don't know if I'd go much more than that. Obviously, the Clean Rot Knights are meant to evoke, like, insects. And potentially they are actually turning into insects. Because these seem more like wings. But it's kind of interesting that his spear has that effect where it summons a whole bunch of spears from the ground, pointing upwards. I think in the exact same way as the Clean Rot spears. But this is like the evil version, you know. Almighty Lizard says, I've heard everyone say the flame looks like Blood Flame or is Gelmir related, but do you think the fire is Destined Death related? Looks like Malekith's Black and Red Flame to me. My sense is I wouldn't put such hard boundaries around the different types of flame. I think that fire is an important concept in this game. And while there are different contexts for fire, you know, maybe they're burning different things, or they're being used by different people, or they're channeling different powers. I think there's a fundamental reality of fire which encompasses all of that. And so, you know, was the black flame always black? Did it have color at one point? Was it Destined Death Flame? Is that related to Ghost Flame? Was Ghost Flame purple instead of sort of blue tinged? Is the, you know, Godwin's Eclipse Chotel flames, is that something entirely new that was created? Is that related to Destined Death? There's lots of connections between the fires, and I think basically the way I think of it is, if you were an alchemist, like, you do get different colors of fire when you burn different things. So to me, it's about what is the fire doing? What is the fuel for the fire? So rather than like kind of going like, oh, these are separate things like Destined Death Flame, Gelmir Flame, Blood Flame. I don't think they're necessarily separate things. They're all fire. So whatever this is, it could be something. It could be called something new, which is none of the types of fire that we've seen. It could be a mix of different types of fire. I think the idea is just that it's fire and it's burning something in particular. It's particularly destructive. It's particularly hot. So it certainly seems to be related to Destined Death, to Gelmir, to Blood Flame. Could be lots of different things. Okay. Oh. Oh, my voice is definitely going. I'm gonna have to speed up here. Okay, so we did this. Let me get rid of these and put in the last few. Tree D-Land, do you think Mesmer is the one embracing Mikla and Melania in Elphael's statue? What do you think their relationship is? I sincerely doubt it. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, who knows? We have no context for Mesmer now. Um, but I, I would go with Godwin or maybe Merica. Um, yeah, I don't see why I would assume that. I mean, it looks completely different than Mesmer, so I don't see why I would assume that it would be. Okay, last few pictures here. So there's that shield that Miyazaki mentioned. Not much else there. There's that flame again. We've got the crucible wings. Oh, and this was reminding me. Um, the winged scythe. The winged scythe is a scythe that the blade is shaped like an angel's wing. And it says that I think it's in ancient times, white-winged maidens were death's gentle envoys. Which is like, what the heck? What is that talking about? And the effect of the scythe is that it blocks using the flask of crimson tears. So what the heck is going on there? Because that seems more important as like a throwaway item. It seems more important than I gave it credit for at first. If people, I mean, people, so like this is an aspect of the Crucible, right? The Crucible Knights have these wings. And Moog grows, well, evil versions of these wings, let's say. um, so, and then the Crucible talismans say that, like, oh, scales and knots and feathers used to grow on the human body long ago. So, did humans, I don't know, did humans used to have wings? And then they were death's gentle envoys? I wanna know, I wanna know what that is. I wanna know what that deal is with white-winged maidens. Okay. We get a picture of probably Mikola, sort of ethereal Mikola. Could also be Godwin. Could be America, for all we know. A memory of America. Almighty Lizard says, I heard a theory about the winged scythe being chanting winged dame related. There's that one that wears the same hat as the abductor virgin that uses death magic. Oh, the one that uses death magic that wears the same hat as the abductor virgin. I see. That's interesting. They have thorns tying their legs, as if they're also guilty of something. I suspect the singing bat gals used to have feathers. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Huh. I'll have to think about that. That's an interesting idea. If they were Death's gentle envoys, maybe pre-Erdtree, pre-Golden Order. And here we have those golden roots sticking out, but now they are colorless or even possibly silver. So indicates some kind of state change in the course of the DLC. something is going to happen to this Shadow of the Erdtree. I mean, the interesting thing is, whatever we do in this Shadow Realm, like, you can still burn the Erdtree and unleash Destined Death, right? It's not going to affect the base game. You can do them side by side. You can do one after the other, whatever. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting how they contain the story within the DLC. What if he's the reason that America had to leave at least one giant, or else the divine duty would go back to Mesmer? Huh. Well, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, I doubt Mikola is Mesmer. I mean, who knows? This game deals with identity so much, and this is exactly the script that I'm writing now is about identity, and in particular, America's identity, and how she's Radigan. She's got this aspect of she's got a shadow with Malekith. She's got Melina, who is kind of her daughter, but maybe is also like a memory of her. She's got Mikla and Melania, who are her children who are born just from her, so they're like clones almost. And there's all this stuff with offshoots with Melania and Millicent sisters. So there is definitely a lot of, and I mean all this other stuff. I mean, there's like astral projection and body swapping, and people can change appearance, and there's all sorts of stuff with identity that makes it very confusing. So I won't outright, rule out um, Mesmer being a sort of aspect of Mikla, but it doesn't feel right. I don't know. Mikla already has Saint Trina. Um, I could see him being an aspect of Melania. That would make more sense to me because then it's sort of there's a nice symmetry to everything. Although, yeah, I don't know. Or he could just be a completely different character. I mean, if you wanted to write like a DLC, it would be a mistake, I think, to box yourself in by trying to close the loops. Like, okay, this is a weird example, but I always think of the movie Solo. I don't know if anyone saw that or if anyone's a Star Wars fan, but the movie Solo is about like the early days of Han Solo. And so what they do is they take all these like throwaway lines from the original trilogy and they make it the whole plot of the movie. Like, oh, the Kessel Run. I mean, the Kessel Run in 14 parsecs or whatever. And then it's like, that's the entire plot of the movie. And it's like, no, no, no. That's so lame. You make the world smaller when you do that. Throwaway lines, the point of that is to give you this sense that, like, oh, the world is so much bigger than I imagined. Right? There's all this stuff that's going on that you're not focusing on. Like, the story is just focused on this one slice of it. And so when you have these throwaway lines, it's like, oh yes, that one battle that happened at one point, and oh yeah, I met this guy there, and we don't know any of the context around that, but it's just part of world building to make the world seem bigger. And if you try to close those loops by explaining all the context around it, then it's like, oh, you just made the world smaller because now we know everything that there is in the world. So there's no like mystery beyond what we're focusing on. So to me, I mean, maybe Mesmer is connected, and obviously, if we're going to get backstory about America and we're dealing with Mikla and stuff, like obviously the story is connected, and this is still all based off of, at least in part, off of George R. R. Martin's mythos that he wrote. So obviously is connected, but I don't know, just from a writing perspective, I would say, you know, I would hope, in fact, that they went in the direction of like, oh, we're just gonna make up a bunch of new stuff because it's less interesting to kind of close the loops on everything. Yeah, Tolkien does it brilliantly. Yeah, Dune does it brilliantly. Um, Speaking of closing loops, what do you make of the O in the title text? Is that the hidden thing in the title Miyazaki said? Yeah, I was thinking of that. So that's clearly this Solway at Coagula kind of thing. It's not the Ouroboros, by the way. People mix this up. So the Ouroboros is a single serpent or dragon snake eating its own tail. The double version of that it has a different symbolic connotation, which is, I mean, in alchemy, it's the Solway at Coagula, this process of dissolution and coagulation, whereby everything is sort of, expands and contracts, it dissolves and it coagulates, it's, breaks apart and comes back together. It's sort of similar to like the yin yang idea, where the yin yang, what is it called, the Taijitu, is like these two serpents eating each other. That's actually sort of an abstract version of that, and within the head of one serpent is the seed of the other, so that it's always a cycle that moves between the two. So that's sort of the symbolism of that design. The Ouroboros is something else that's like symbolic of time and this entropy and of, I don't know, a lot of different things, but it's just a different meaning. So I mean, I guess like, okay, duality and every light has a shadow, all of that kind of stuff. You could read into it a lot of different things. I don't really know. Okay, so that is all of the screen caps that I took. We also have these promotional images um, from the Elden Ring website. So this is just a bit clearer view of what's going on here. We have these spectral tombstones, which I still don't have any reason, explanation for. And so we've already looked at this. This looks like potentially a kind of demi-human. I actually don't really know what that is, because kind of looks like an epic goblin dude. So I'm 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 into this. Um Epic goblin guy. He's got a big club. Possibly like a possibly draconic in some way, or like kind of a lizardy. He's got this ridge on his back. Is it just me, or do these pines remind you of the Helphin Blade? Yeah, that's why I pointed that out earlier in the stream, that the Helphin Blade kind of has a coniferous tree look to it. Although now that I think of it, hold on, let me look it up again. And where was it? It was in here, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. Helphin. Where are you, Helphin? Where did it go? I had it somewhere. Pictures. I guess just the icon is fine. So the branches going down, I mean, the thing is that, like, even though that's when you draw a Christmas tree, you draw the spikes going downwards. like coniferous trees actually the branches go upwards. Um, anyway, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. That's a different thought. I don't want to go down that road. Albinoric type club. Yeah, new club, I would say. It definitely gives me kind of demi-human vibes, but maybe something new. Like if demi-humans are somewhere in between human and rodent or wolf or monkey, this is maybe in between human and like lizard. So again, Crucible, I think being a focus here. And here we get to use that attack, so that's pretty cool. Oh, is this what you were talking about with the Godfrey armor? There's definitely double-bladed axe. I see a shield. Is that 8 points on it? 8 sort of pips surrounding the middle. Hard to see the... Yeah, the greaves do kind of look Godfrey-esque. Let me find Godfrey's greaves. Elden Lord. There we go. Not that much actually, but it's not far off. They give me real Lord of the Rings vibes, these guys. On the right one, you can see some sort of sigil on the helmet. I mean, obviously we can only see one part of it. I can't really make it out. Yeah, the double-bladed axe is interesting because our theme with Mesmer is spears, obviously. The Impaler, we see multiple spears in various places and all these corkscrews and stuff. So the axe is definitely a Godfrey kind of association. There's sort of a root-like design or filigree on the side of the axe. So potentially related to the Badlands, the Crucible. Yeah, not entirely sure. Okay. These guys, wow. This kind of looks underground to me. Possibly that same area from earlier that had the gold veins in the ground or the water. Oh, you don't see an axe? I'll go back to it. On the left side, this guy is wielding a double-bladed axe. And in fact, so is the guy on the right, but it's a little bit more hidden. Anyway. Yeah, this kind of looks like the same area. I wonder if we flip the camera around, if we would see that same structure. It almost looks like there's some little vein of gold at the shoreline here. This guy appears to be coming out of a pool of blood, or perhaps it's emanating from him. The head is so weird. The tendrils, it kind of reminds me of those balls of corpses and roots at the end of Catacombs. So I think this golden sap that's this golden sap that's coming out of the shadow of the Erdtree and being caught. I think this is going to be very important. That this is a valuable resource in the shadow realm. Yeah, yeah, like the winter lanterns or amygdala. Well, I will guess that it won't be fun to fight these guys, but who knows? Oh, this is actually the same warrior guy from earlier. So this is a bit clearer. I don't think it's very Godfrey looking now. But possibly a relationship. The Greaves do look kind of Godfrey-esque, but chainmail. Yeah. I don't really have anything else to say about that. And we already looked at this. And this looks very nice and pretty. So it's nice to see that there's some green locations. And you think like the Shadowland, the Land of Shadow, and it would be all dark. But I think actually the aesthetic that they're going for is more like Twilight. When it's Twilight, um, you have this like there's light out, but because of the angle of the sun, you get these really long and really deep shadows. So it's this very contrasting, very I don't know, very arresting aesthetic, and I think that's what they're going for. So it's not like a land of darkness; it's a land of twilight. I think that's the idea. And here we have a very clear shot of Mesmer, and we also have a shot of the statue behind him, which is a woman cradling something. Looks like a child, I think. Let me zoom in a bit. Oh, no. Come on, come back. Come back. Zoom in more. Kind of hard to tell what she's cradling. But... Oh, hold on. Where is that picture? Let me just find the picture. Come on. There we go. Okay. Here's what's interesting. Do we have a picture of Radigan? Radigan statue, maybe? Um, so, is that accurate to what it looks like in game? Let me open up the game for a sec. Let's go check out something here. Where's the Radigan statue? Bellum Church. Whoa. Okay, I gotta end this stream pretty soon because my throat's gonna go. Okay. So. Huh. The belt is not quite the same. But it doesn't really look like America's belt. Oh, maybe it is. That's in her statue. That first picture. That one, her belt looks different. The bracelet is that upper arm bracelet. Yeah. Is it America? Is it the Glowmide Queen? Is it Radigan? I don't know. Oh, we also have this boy. What a good boy. And my feeling here is in the lands between we have spirit jellyfish. And so if we go down below in the layer of, to a lower layer of reality, let's say, then maybe we have spirit earthworm. So sort of parallel concept. So that's everything, I think. Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. I think I'm definitely going to predict that we're dealing with the middle of the map. Some flipped upside down version of that. And the most interesting thing to me about all of this lore dump that we just got with all of the interviews and the pictures and the trailer is the idea that America, well, that she arrived in the land of shadow and grew the Erdtree there, that the Erdtree was born there. Because, like, the Erdtree now is growing out of the middle of the map. So actually, my middle of the map idea, I feel like that's almost certain then, right? Like the Erdtree is growing out of like the part where the water is. So she arrived there. Well, it's a bit odd because, like, how would you arrive there by boat? Hmm. In one of the Elric novels, Elric, Sailor on the Seas of Fate, he is in dire straits and he gets picked up by this boat. And it's got this very mysterious captain and a very mysterious crew. And he sort of, there's these three other characters on it. There's a whole crew, but there's these three other characters in particular that he like feels some weird bond with. And it sort of unfolds that the ship is actually a ship that sails between worlds, between times, between dimensions, um, and that these three other characters are other incarnations of the Eternal Champion. And then it gets like super weird, and he like merges with them to become this like eight-armed creature, and possesses the body of this like sorceress who's actually a building. It gets like super trippy. Um, but yeah, Corum, Moonhawk, and Ericosa, or Ericosa. I never know how to pronounce that name. Um, yeah, so I sort of wonder if like, okay, well, the Newman came from another world. They can sailing the sea. This idea of like going between worlds. Water is a barrier between worlds. So the Newman maybe came from some other land that they figured out how to travel between worlds. Oh, also in the Eternal Champion series, you have the Eldrin. It's like Elden, but with an R. And they're like this beautiful, superior race of humanoid like people. They're basically like Tolkien elves, sort of. And they've figured out how to travel between different universes, and so they've sort of populated various places in the multiverse. Um, yeah, but I don't know. I'm not really going anywhere with any of that. I'm just sort of thinking aloud about identities and different universes, different layers of reality. The Sea of Fog, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Destined Death has to be a part of it, but it's. I'm curious how, like, if we can, if we can kill Malekith and unleash Destined Death in the game without it being affected by anything in the DLC. Now, I mean, possibly it could affect something in the DLC, but it seems like he wanted to make it separate. So there is a relationship to Destined Death. I wonder how. I wonder how that will work. Well, lots to think about. Um, I in the description for this video, I linked the three interviews that Miyazaki did. I also linked a way to join the Discord if you guys want to. Those who aren't there, if you want to continue talking on there. Um, yeah, the next video for me is I'm writing something about identity. It's more of a kind of um, I guess sort of thematic analysis of America and Elden Ring story. Although I will get into some sort of plot related stuff. Um, and then after that, oh yeah, I had plans to my plan is to do a full lore through of the game. Now I was trying to figure out like, okay, how is this gonna work? I don't think I'm gonna stream like every hour of it. My idea is to like prepare a character for the DLC. The DLC is 4 months out, so I don't think probably more like 2 months from now I'll maybe start. And I probably won't do absolutely everything in the game on stream. I'll probably spend a lot of time like farming for items and stuff so I can read the descriptions. So I'll have to figure out exactly how to plan that, but that probably won't start for a couple of months. Um, and yeah, I think that's it for now. I need to like stop talking and go drink a bunch of water and eat something. So, thanks for joining me. Uh, oh, Elden Ring game nights with fight clubs and such. That might be fun. Yeah, I'll think about that. Okay. Thanks for joining, guys. I'm gonna call it here. So I will talk to you later.